Hello and welcome to the 1912 Exiles podcast, the original, the biggest, the best Newport County podcast made by the fans for the fans. We are brought to you by the Terrace Cymru Podcast Network and in association with the wonderful team at the Riverside Sports Bar in Newport, the city's home for live sport with a great menu to get your burger fix. I am joined tonight by three panellists. So first up, we have London Exile making, I think, his second appearance on the pod, Rob Davis. Hello, Rob.
Evening, Ed.
And live from Gloucestershire, we have Dave Aratidion. Dave Rogers, how you doing?
Yeah, noswaith da.
Noswaith da, itzy hefyd. And of course, we have our old friend, Alfie Humphreys. Evening, Alfie.
Evening, all.
So my plan in a moment is to go to each of the panel this evening. We've got three games to report on. Rob was at the Barnet game. Dave was sat with me for the home defeat against Bromley. And Alfie, I know, made the trip to Walsall yesterday. So I'm going to ask each of them to talk us through those games. But first off, I want to just quickly thank our regular Ko-Fi subscribers because we haven't done that for a little while. So huge thanks to Jason, Jack R, Fab, John Watkins, Lyndon Young, Taff, Anthony Evans, Alan Cooper, Surrey Exile, Blairino, Dr. Bad Vibe, Tutor Wales, Ben Smith, Josh Kay, Billy Punk, Hoyligan, Mark Williams, and the original two, Daniel Hirini and Hamid Baladabadi. Hugely grateful to all of you for the money you chip in every month towards the pod's running costs. I also want to thank the people who responded to our recent call to throw a few pennies into the jar to help us cover some recent bills. In no particular order, they were Tony, Stowhill Sid, Kevin Moorfellover, Andrew R, our old friend Boosh Taliesin from North Wales, Billy Punk, Duncan Martin, Markin Baysleg, Malcolm Holmes, and a name close to home for you, Alfie, Jane Brasalis, your mum. So
Yeah,
did you?
It was me, but my mum wanted to do it in her name, so yeah, I had the help.
Well, a huge thanks to both of you and to everyone else. And for the rest of you, if you can spare us as little as £2 towards our running costs, then there is a link in the show notes to where you can make a donation. And if you can't spare any money, that's also fine. But do consider leaving us a nice review wherever you get your podcasts. Right, that is the hard sell over to business. As I say, I'm going to get each of the panel to give us a few minutes worth of analysis of the game that they were at. So, Rob, over to you. You were there for that 2-1 win at the Hive the other week. What did you make of that? I think most of us didn't expect to get anything out of that trip to Barnet, and we came away with all 3 points. So, talk us through it.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think my sort of spirit coming out of that game has been dampened a bit by results midweek and yesterday, obviously. But yeah, I'll try my best. I think that the sort of first half, there wasn't a great deal in it for the first kind of 20, 25 minutes or so. But then obviously you get that pump up the pitch from their keeper. All of a sudden their strikers one-on-one, tucks it away after about half an hour. And you think, oh, here we go again. I've seen this one before. So going in at half-time, 1-0 down, didn't have the greatest expectations for the second half, but yeah, I mean, I have to say, I mean, I haven't the other guys on the call have probably seen County play far more than I have this season, but the second half was as good as I've seen us play all season, really. Crole came on for Baker Richardson at half time and really just got stuck in, really took it to Barnet. And Ben Lloyd, who'd come on in the first half as well, he was excellent in the second half, creating loads of chances. Well, everyone was really. I think that our press was excellent. Didn't give Barnet any time on the ball. Whenever we did get the ball, we were looking to create chances to attack Barnet. And yeah, I thought by the end of it, we were thoroughly deserving of the 3 points. So it was really, an excellent away day, really, all in all.
I guess it's a sort of mirror image almost of that Walsall defeat because, you know, there we were 1-0 up at half time and then ended up losing 2-1 at the death. At Barnet, like you say, we started slowly, let a goal in. Clearly they got a rocket up the backside at half time. We were then able to make some changes. The likes of Crole comes on and brings a bit of a spark, and I'm sure we'll talk in more depth about him later on. Lloyd, as you say, had an excellent game. Again, we may well want to dwell on him later. And I think it's quite interesting that, you know, you look at that, and I guess the learnings from that game were we really want to be starting the likes of Crole and Lloyd. And then, of course, we're able to do that up at Walsall, but, Lloyd and others get early bookings, which perhaps softens their ability to have an impact. Crole perhaps starts to tire and, we have to take him off. And then you end up with the opposite effect of the game going against us because we haven't got the strength on the bench. So do you think there is something about the game management where, particularly over the last few months, we've had all these midweek games, we've had to manage players' minutes and so on. And sometimes that works for you when you've got the impetus to bring off the bench. But then there's other times like at Walsall when you look at it, we had, I think, all three of our central midfielders yesterday on bookings, and the cupboard was a little bit bare in terms of what do you replace them with.
Yeah, I think probably Kroll's quite a good example. I mean, coming in from the League of Wales, it's a huge step up, the pace of the games and the stamina you need. And he might still not be there yet. I think coming on, obviously he only had 45 minutes against Barnet, but he was excellent. Baker Richardson, I know he comes in for a lot of stick, and he has done all season. That he does do a job. It might not be pretty, but it's effective. He can hold the ball up. So bringing Crole on for CBR, I mean, at Barnet, it worked like a charm, really. So the guys will probably speak a bit more about Crole in particular. I'm not quite sure he's up to 90 minutes of League Two football yet, but at least going on the Barnet game, the signs are really promising, I think.
Well, let me just bring in Alfie on that, because after Barnet, everyone was saying we need to give Crole a start. We didn't against Bromley, and I think that was probably for the fitness reasons that you've alluded to, Rob. We then did finally give him that start on Saturday, but we didn't do what many of us thought we might have done, of play him up front with CBR, try and give him an experienced strike partner. We instead played him in a different role. What was your analysis of that, Alfie?
Yeah, I thought he did okay, but yeah, we are crying out for someone to play up with him. Tuesday, obviously, he didn't start, and we were crying out for him to come on. And then yesterday, we were crying out for CBR to come on, but not to take Crole off. I like Crole. He's grown into, I think, League Two football. I've been watching a lot of the Cymru Prem since starting with Barry, and the stamina and the speed of play, and getting up to that match fitness, it is a big jump. And I think that the Barnet game did show that Crole can do it. And I think yesterday, Biggins will get the credit for the goal, but it was all Crole work down their right-hand side. And I just think we're finding ourselves with a number 9, 7 games left of the season.
Well, I suppose the flip side is that's better than not finding ourselves with a number 9 at all. And I think a lot of us said that when he signed, is that we're bringing someone in who can be that fox in the box and has been scoring goals this season, has the confidence, and you can see that with him, the way he was taking players on in the run up to that opening goal on Saturday. But it is about the fitness and getting him up to the level. But I think most of us are looking at it at the moment now and going, well, if he's someone who's confident and is getting goals and is bringing some energy, then maybe we just need to kind of throw caution to the wind and give him that chance. But we might come back to that a little bit later. So that's Barnet dealt with. Dave, I know what you thought about the game against Bromley, because you were sat next to me muttering and swearing for 97 minutes or whatever it was. But for the benefit of the listeners,
like me at all, Ed.
So what was your verdict on it?
Well, the first thing after the Barnet performance, I really fancied we were going to get something in that game, and I know that every time on a Tuesday I go optimistic, we lose. So I was a little bit, oh God, why do I think we can get anything? And then the teams came out and he made a few changes, and we were chatting with Mark O'Brien, weren't we, before that? And we're kind of like, if we can get a 0-0 out of this, it'd be a really good result, and all the other teams will be expecting us to lose. And then I thought we played really well, and Bromley are, well, I don't know how many points clear they are of 4th place, but they're going up, and they're a big, strong, athletic team that everything we always say that we want in a League Two team. They're maybe not a team that you're that happy to watch if you're not a supporter of them, but they're a brutally effective League Two team. And we matched them, and in actual fact, we probably bettered them. And it was a performance to just like really get involved. Like the crowd were really involved in it, and it really felt like we were gonna nick something. Their keeper made a couple of good saves. We hit the post. Biggins hit the post, I think, and it was all like it was such a positive performance. And then almost, like summing up our season, we're not that bad a team, but we're brilliant at making one mistake that costs us the game.
Yeah.
And we are absolutely incredible. I've never seen a team quite like us in the 40-odd years I've been watching football. For thinking a bloke on the edge of the box causes you absolutely no danger. So we'll just leave that bloke on the edge of the box because he's definitely not going to have a shot. From our side, it did look like Wright made an absolute meal of it. When you see it on TV from the other side, it looks like a hell of a goal. And it definitely sort of skipped up off the grass. So I think Wright will be disappointed with it, and he misjudged it. We're not at the time of the season where you can say, it was a positive defeat. We've got to be getting points. But it was a positive performance.
Yeah. And it leads us neatly in to the Walsall game as well, because I think you look at both of those, and on paper, before both of them, you're probably thinking, God, a point from this would be a decent return. We weren't far off getting one against Bromley, and we weren't far off getting one against Walsall. We'll come on in a bit to talk about hard luck stories and how much consolation or otherwise that is. But in the cold light of day, Alfie, I know a 97th minute winner for Walsall does not leave you with a glow in your heart, but in the cold light of day, how does that defeat feel?
It was tough to take, and a lot of us were leaving the ground feeling the same way, but also, appreciating the effort the players put in. At the time, I was like, what are they doing? Like this and that. But as I was coming home, I was thinking, they did play well, they defended well, but just like Tuesday, didn't defend the edge of the box. Brilliant strike, but just sums up our season.
And I don't like to claim my Nostradamus tendencies, but I did text Dave and I did text you, Alfie, in the pod WhatsApp group, and I said this feels like exactly the sort of game when it was 1-1. I said this is exactly the sort of game where we're going to let in a 97th minute goal and lose it, and I was spot on. It just, the momentum had shifted, and it comes back to the point I made earlier, and I want to unpack it. That not for the first time this season, it felt as though a lack of experience on the bench, or a lack of willingness to use the experience that we did have on the bench, did not help our cause. I mean, that was the sort of game where we just needed a few cool heads on the pitch to kind of see the result out, and we didn't have it.
I think that's why Matt Smith came on, just to calm everything down. But the game, I think, for us had just passed us by the time he came on. I can't remember him making an impact. I think he may have come on at 1-1, but it was just defend for our lives. And I think that's why we bought CBR on, just to get rid of the ball. And it didn't pay off.
Yeah. And I think it was Biggins who headed it out to the Walsall player, who was, they weren't quite as on the edge of the box as was the case against Bromley, where you think, there was a little bit more space for them that perhaps you didn't necessarily expect one of our lot to go out and play it down. But as Dave has said, that's twice in the space of 4 to his where a set piece.
But also you chuck in the Tranmere goal as well. And it's actually, when the ball comes in, we're reasonably competent at defending it. We get that header away to the edge of the box, which is where, you're under a bit of pressure and you're stretching to get a header. You're not going to do the most powerful header in the world. That's probably where it's going to go, the edge of the box. And we just seem to allow the opposition to have a man there, completely unmarked. And the Tranmere one, he was literally able to pick his spot. You see the bloke loitering there and you just think, here we go.
Yeah, the Tranmere one was the most frustrating out of all of them. That was the real criminal one, because we'd done it right in the first minute of leaving a man unmarked on the edge of the box, and then we were doing it again in injury time. We nearly let in twice from almost identical positions. So how worried ought we to be about hard luck stories. So Jamie, listeners, was going to host tonight and pulled out late because failed a late fitness test because of a sore throat. But he did text me to say his ire at the moment is largely on County's inability to see games out. Even acknowledging that we've been playing some good teams in the likes of Bromley and Walsall, it comes back to a mentality issue, in Jamie's words. And if any of those sides we play around us have a bit of nous, they will do the same as we've seen from Walsall and Bromley. It really does concern me, he says, that there's so much naivety in the team. Against Bromley, we look good for a point and a clean sheet till the 85th minute. At Walsall, we led at the break only to go down to that 97th minute winner. It just feels as though, we can call all of these slips fine margins, but do we also have to acknowledge that a more street smart team might have got 2 more points out of this week and we'd all be breathing a lot easier as a result? I don't know who wants to give their 2 pennyworth on that one.
I think I can't remember if I said to you or if I said to Ewan in the Bromley game, this is the sort of game that a team that's going up wins and a team that's going down loses. That's exactly what it was. And teams that are going down concede late goals, and you can see the players tensing up when it's getting towards, we're going to get a point or we're going to win. You can see them tensing up, and you're more likely to miss-hit a clearance. I still think, based on what I was predicting and us to have points-wise today, we're 3 points better off than I thought we were going to do. I didn't think we were going to necessarily win any of those games. I think where Jamie's point is fair, that the thing I would say is that Harrogate and Crole and some of the other teams we're playing are not as good as the teams that we've just played in this little run. And there's going to be as much pressure on Harrogate and as much pressure on Crole as there is on us. So their players are all going to be tensed up. So long and short of it, Ed, I don't know.
I think it's mentality and the age of the squad. I just think there's, these 23, 24-year-olds have got 100 EFL appearances, as Hugh Jenkins liked to point out in his last fan forum. But I just looked through last year's team. It still wasn't as experienced, but we somehow got the job done. We've lost James Clark this year to retirement. We lost Nick Townsend, who, 300 odd appearances or 200 odd appearances for us in the Football League as well. Matt Baker, captain, I think he's the same age as me. Yeah, he's got a lot of games under his belt, but he's like the most experienced player there. And then the older players, maybe like a year or 2 older, have played like non-league. I just think it is the lack of leaders, or these older players we've signed are always on the injury list. And then maybe it's down to when we do win a game, last week at Barnet, change the team and the formation completely on Tuesday, and then we go and lose, and then it's frustrating because we haven't won 2 in a row since that February run last year. I don't know what to put it into words anymore. Just frustrating.
That's not great for a podcast, Alfie.
No, it's just frustrating.
You prompted me there, Alfie, on 2 questions, and we'll come to them after a break, listeners, when I'm going to ask Rob about 2 things. Firstly, does the return of Shepherd and Smith help to address that inexperience in the team that Alfie's just talked about? And then I also want us to talk about the fact that we are now out of the Saturday, Tuesday hellhole of the last few months, and whether that little bit of extra time between games is going to give us more and better preparation for the run-in. So we'll have all that after the break. Welcome back. Well, after that wonderful bit of teasing that I did before we threw to an advert break, Rob, I'm going to bring you in and you can choose which question you want to answer first of all. So how do you feel about the return of Smith and Shepherd? And equally, what do you think might be the difference now that we, apart from the Easter weekend doubleheader, we are now regular Saturday to Saturday games between now and the end of the season?
I think, as we kind of touched on earlier, that kind of lack of experience, whether it's on the pitch or on the bench, I think anything that can add to that is a huge plus in the run-in. I've not seen a great deal of either of them, to be honest. But what I have seen, they're pretty tough players, League Two pedigree. So I think any experience like that is obviously going to help. The Saturday Tuesday games not coming quite so thick and fast. We've had quite a lengthy injury list all season, especially with those experienced players who seem to be a little bit brittle, really. So I think, again, any extra recovery time that we can have between matches is only going to help us, really.
Yeah, I think it also hopefully will mean that Fuchs is less determined to do his thing of like managing players' minutes. I get that you have to do that when you've got to play Saturday, Tuesday, but when you've got a full week of recovery time in between, hopefully that's the point at which you say, okay, well, rather than Liam Shepherd playing 50, 60 minutes, we'll play him 70 to 80. And if we really need to keep him on because we're trying to see out a game, then he's just going to have to play through the pain a little bit. I know that's not necessarily the modern way, but the more I've watched this team this season, the more I'm convinced that we are managing players' minutes over managing the game. And it used to annoy me with Jardim, and it's annoying me again with Fuchs. And if that makes me a football dinosaur, then I'm sorry, listeners. Dave, Alfie, any thoughts from either of you on those questions?
I mean, I do agree that we're at the stage of the season where we've just got to play the best team in every single game. There's no point resting players in April. There is no point. It's now, isn't it? These are the whole season, possibly the whole existence of the club is this month. So the best players on the pitch, and that means some of the players won't play, or they might have to come in having not played for ages because someone's got suspended. Like, you can see Sven getting suspended for sure. But yeah, I do think it'll help. But these games are going to be brutal, aren't they? And it's got to be the players with the mental capacity to stand up for it as much as anything else, to stand up to the pressures of these games where players are literally fighting for their jobs.
And on that point, I mean, we talked about the challenges of players being missing through injury, but I'm starting to worry we might be having to deal with missing players through suspension as well. We said it earlier, we had Sprangler, Lloyd and Biggins, I think, all booked in the first half, I think, against Walsall, or certainly in the first hour. On the one hand, we were crying out a few months ago for a more bastard-like midfield. Well, we've got that now. We look an awful lot better, I think, as a result of it. But we are attracting a lot more cards as a result. So, Alfie, is that a problem, or is it just the price of doing business in a physical league? And how do we think we kind of manage that? Because you can't tell Sven Sprangler to not go out and be physical. That's like trying to tell a dog not to bark. So what do we do?
No, I am. On one hand, it's like I think they're just showing a bit of fight, and on the other hand, it's just the officials. I'm not a fan. Who is a fan of EFL officials? But yesterday, first minute, first tackle, yellow card, Sprangler, and then he took ages to give his first yellow card to Walsall. I think Sven, I've only seen him a couple of times, but I think he's probably the most physical midfielder we've had since Labadie.
Yeah,
and we've been crying out for a Labadie type midfielder, and he's on loan. So it's typical that our probably best performing midfielder is going to go back to, I think it's St Johnstone or somewhere. And
I think he's out of contract there at the end of the season, isn't he? So there's surely a chance if we stay up that we may be able to persuade him to stay on, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think Biggins is out of contract as well, but he is unavailable for Saturday because it's his parent club. So that's someone else going to have to come in and do the job.
You'd imagine that Smith is kind of the obvious one to come in if he's fit. Yeah. Well, I mean, you brought us really neatly onto the Shrewsbury game. Although, just before we talk about it, the comparison between Sprangler and Labadie is actually a really good one in relation to the question I was asking, because Labs, it was a running joke that he'd get a booking every other game, but I think we all just saw that as the price of having someone in midfield who brought that little bit of tenacity.
I think what you've got to say as well is Sven likes getting stuck in, but he's clearly not just reckless because he played 89 minutes on the yellow card.
That's a good point.
And I think as Alfie says, we can't have Biggins this weekend, but then after that, assuming Smith can stay fit, well then presumably Evans won't play. So then if Sprangler does pick up so many yellow cards that he has to sit a game out, then Evans will come in for one game. I'm guessing, but it's a big if Smith can stay fit.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't bet the farm on it, but you're right. We've got more options to slot players in and rotate there than we've had at any point in the season. So if we're going to look to that Shrewsbury game then next Saturday, I'm going to ask each of you what you think should be the tactical priority for that, or what changes you'd make. So Rob, kick us off.
I mean, we've already touched on it. I think Fuchs likes to, he's a tinkerer, isn't he? And I just think we just have to play our best 11, and we've just got to go for it. Shrewsbury, they're more or less safe now. They haven't really got a lot to play for. I wouldn't quite call it a must win, but we really have to go for it. I think, Biggins and Smith in the middle. I'd like to see Crole and CBR up top. Yeah, defensively, I think we've been, obviously I've had a few clangers the last few games, but I think we look reasonably okay at the minute. So yeah, we just got to go for it.
I think the only question mark would be Jenkins, who Fuchs said, I think it was a bit of kidology in his pre-match interview on Saturday that Jenkins was available, but then he wasn't even on the bench, and we'd all seen him with a sling in the build-up. So I don't think that was ever on, frankly. I think he just wanted to play some mind games. Whether he's back for Shrewsbury, again, I would doubt, but presumably if he's anywhere in contention, then we will try to play him if we can, because we look so much better with him in the side than out of it. But good points. Dave, you can go next. What changes are you making for this one?
I'm not sure how many changes I'm making. It's all going to be about the intensity. We've got to come out at 100 miles an hour and press the life out of them. If they're on the beach, if we've spent the first 10 minutes making it difficult for them, there's the opportunity there that, they're just not going to be as up for it as we are. So that for me is what is just come out and start really, really fast. Get the crowd behind you. Yeah, maybe Sven nails someone. Lloyd has been pressing for his life. You're just bombing around all over the place at the moment. Don't concede a stupid goal early on. And I mean, we kept the intensity up against Bromley. That was pretty much it was an 89-minute performance, really. If we can do that, then I'm fairly confident we can come out and absolutely take it to them early on and see if they're really up for it. They're one of those teams that could be doing an impression of us this time last year.
Yeah.
We're not going down, so it's going to get a little bit difficult. We don't really care.
I love the idea of someone needs to put in an early reducer, and if they're in the unlikely event that any of Newport County's backline are listening, I will put 20 quid into the account of a charity of your choice if you can nail someone in the first 5 minutes with an early reducer to get the crowd on side. So that is a cast iron 1912 Exiles promise.
And I don't like the phrase new manager bounce, but that has worn off for them now, hasn't it? He came in, they did brilliantly for sort of 6 or 7 games, but I think they've lost 3 in a row since. So it's not the worst time to be playing them.
Alfie, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think just to go off what you said, Ed, needing someone to fly into a tackle, there would be one person who would have done that a few years ago, and that would have been Adam Lewis. He would have just gone for someone straight away. Unfortunately, we don't have him, but someone to do something what he used to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are safe. I think they're like 11 points clear of us. The teams around us are too poor to catch up. I just think take it back to basics. 4 at the back, 4 midfield, 2 up front. We never know what we're going to play. It's either a 4 at the back, 5 at the back, 1 up front mostly. You just never know until we kick off. And then, I think Crole and CBR should start. It'll probably be Garner and the Poku, knowing Fuchs.
I think we will see Crole start. That's my. I'm fairly confident in that. I think he's shown enough to be given the nod. And I'm like you. I don't particularly mind actually at the moment whether we play 4 or 5 at the back, but I do want to see 2 up front. That for me is the indication that right we're going for this now. So that's the one to watch. I think listeners. Go on, Dave.
I think as well if Crole can get a goal at home, but he clearly like buzzes when his song's being sung, and you can see it. And if he could score at home and get everybody singing his song, I think he'll just start flying after that.
Modesty prevents you, of course, from saying that it was you who came up with the idea.
Well, I mean, I sent it to you and you made a graphic. Whether that meant anybody actually looked at that and decided to start singing it, or
we'll
if it's just
climb it.
coincidental, I don't know. But
Right, we're gonna wrap it up, listeners. I'm going to ask the panel in a second for their shout outs and beefs. First of all, I'm going to give a quick mention for our local team in focus, Rochester Women, who played today at Cwmbran. Sadly, they lost 8-0, so a forgettable day for them. And they now have the mother of all fixture congestions between now and the end of the season. If you have the Cymru Football app, do have a look at the number of games they've got to play. If we thought it was bad with Saturday, Tuesday, they've got Tuesdays and Thursdays and Sundays and all sorts thrown into the mix. So the good news is there's plenty of women's football that you can watch between now and the summer in South Wales, including Rochester Women. The bad news is for those teams, they are going to be covering a lot of miles and doing a lot of running. Shout outs and beefs. Alfie, you can kick us off.
I couldn't really think of a beef, but I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone from the club who turned up to Ollie's funeral.
Yeah.
Just thought it was a nice touch. It was a great service. Just seeing what Pipey did, seeing Mark O'Brien, Nicola, people, ex-board directors, ex-media people. I thought it was a really good turnout for, a great guy. And I just hope, I hope we stay up. Obviously, I hope we stay up, but I hope we stay up for Ollie.
Yeah. And I know that friend of the pod, Nicola, the photographer, is taking a copy of the order of service with her to all the games so that Ollie gets to see the season out from the touchline, which I thought was a really classy touch from a classy lady. So well done to her. Dave, any shout outs, any beefs?
Yeah, I've got one of each. I started a beef, which is a long running beef. I know Rodney Parade was designed as a rugby stadium, but it really gets my goat how long it takes to get a soft drink or a cup of coffee or a sausage roll at half time. But if you want a beer, 2 places to get beer that generally are not that busy. And then if you want to get a cup of coffee or a sausage roll or something like that, then the queue goes on forever and you basically have to miss some of the game. And when I first started coming with you and we used to go to the Bisley, and I know it's not the case over there, but having been to quite a lot of other grounds, like it doesn't seem to be the same. It annoys me a little bit, and it shouldn't be that hard to just have somewhere else to get a cup of coffee from. Shout out, sort of following on a bit from what Alfie said. So everything with Ollie's sort of hit me quite hard. I'm a bit of an overthinker about things. And it sort of hits me when I look at places and Ollie's not there. And it's made me realise like just how important everyone who goes to football is, because I just love all the people who are down there and watching it and people watching. And you have the people who shout the same things out every game, and I love it. Like, please don't stop. The bloke on the terrace who got the operatic voice, who can just nail the Needs of Anne song, and actually, it's just so important. So everyone just keep doing what you're doing, keep shouting out what you shout out, keep supporting the team how you support the team, because actually everybody combined is just really important. Like to be part of a group of people who are all going through the same emotions, and you don't really know these people, but if somebody's not there, you notice it.
Yeah, it's really well put, and yeah, because of where we both sit next to each other in the Hazels, we've got lots of regulars around us, and as you say, they all have the little in-jokes about Senso will shout this thing every week at around this time in the first half, and it's, we kind of look out for it. So no, very good. Rob, any shout-outs, any beefs?
Yeah, I guess I first just like to echo what Dave was saying. I think, in many ways we kind of think of ourselves as maybe we could be one of those sort of sleeping giants, but in other ways we're still, a small club, and you go to away games and you see the same 50 odd people there that you see every away game. So yeah, just those familiar faces that make going to football what it is. Beefs, officials. I think particularly look at the Walsall game, and I don't know, was there 7 or 8 bookings in the whole game, 6 minutes of injury time, and they play every second of it and then some. So that's my beefs. And my shout outs would be Barrow, Harrogate and Crawley Town and Tranmere Rovers, who despite our best efforts are doing their part to keep us in the league. So I'll
tell you what, if ever there was an argument for 3 up, 3 down to the conference, it is this year. If you look at the quality of the sides in that, the bottom 5 in the 4th division. But there we go. A quick shout out from me, listeners, before we finish, and it's a shout out to Newport Council and to the Fixture Computer for meaning that once again next Saturday's home game falls on the same day as the Newport Music Trail. There are loads of really good bands on for free, I should add, in venues across the city centre. So get into town after the game against Shrewsbury, support live music and live venues, buy some merch from the bands you want to help sustain, buy plenty of beer to keep the venues going. Weekends like this one are so important for us to have grassroots independent venues. I will be out on Saturday watching Unis and Melon at the Corn Exchange, watching our good friends Maeve at Arcadia Coffee House, and possibly heading to the Cross Keys to see the wonderfully named Great with Custard. So yeah, you can log on to the Newport Council website. I'll put a link in the show notes to see who's on and where, and do get yourself down and support live music in Newport. Right, Dave, Rob, Alfie, thank you all very much for your time this evening.
No problem.
Listeners, keep yourselves subscribed to the 1912 Exiles wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for your support, as always. But until next time, look after yourselves, look after each other, and above all, as always, keep it campty.